It finally happened. The U.S. Department of Transportation has pulled the trigger. $160 million. Gavin Newsom's safety funding snatched. U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy just made it official. He is withholding roughly $160 million in federal funding from the state of California. Why? Because California failed to meet a January 5th deadline to revoke over 17,000 illegally issued commercial driver's licenses. Duffy didn't hold back in his statement. He called it Reckoning Day for California. He accused the state of prioritizing dangerous foreign drivers over the safety of American families on the road. This isn't just a political spat or a headline. This is a massive enforcement action that is going to sideline 17,000 drivers overnight. It's going to send shockwaves through the West Coast freight market that you're going to feel at the pump and at the grocery store. If you're a driver, if you're a fleet owner, or if you're just someone who wants to know why our supply chain is about to get even tighter, you need to watch this entire video. I'm going deep into the FMCSA audit, the non-domicile CDL crisis, and the political war that just cost California millions of dollars. Before we get into the heavy data, I need you to do three things for me right now. Smash that like button. It tells the algorithm this news matters. Share the video with every driver and dispatcher you know, and subscribe to the channel and turn on those post notifications. In 2026, the rules are changing fast. If you aren't subscribed, you're going to get left behind. I've also put the link to the full Freight Waves article in the description box below. Click that to read the primary source for yourself. Let's follow the money. Where did this $160 million actually come from? The DOT is withholding this cash from the National Highway Performance Program and the Surface Transportation Block Grant. This is the money California uses for its Fix It First road projects. It's the money that pays for bridge repairs, safety inspections, and highway maintenance. By snatching this funding, Sean Duffy is essentially telling California, if you won't enforce the law, we won't pay for your roads. This follows a massive audit by the FMCSA that found California in substantial noncompliance. That is a legal term of art. It means the state isn't just making a few mistakes. It means the entire system is broken. The state tried to negotiate. Gavin Newsom's DMV told the feds they would start revoking the licenses in March. They said they needed more time to process the paperwork, but Duffy said the clock ran out on January 5th. He refused the extension. By January 7th, the determination was final. The money was gone. And get this is only the first year. Under federal law, if California keeps defying the DOT, this penalty doubles next year. So now we're talking about over $300 million on the line. This is the nuclear option. The DOT is using the power of the purse to force California's hands. Now let's get into the why. What did the FMCSA find in that audit? They called it a systemic collapse. It centers on something called a non-domicile CDL. Under federal law, to get a commercial driver's license, you are supposed to be domiciled in the state where you live. If you aren't a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident, you can get a non-domicile license if you have legal presence, like a work visa. But there is a very strict rule. The CDL must expire on the same day your legal presence expires. California completely ignored this. The audit found that the California DMV was handing out CDLs that were valid for years after the driver's visa had expired. They were sampling these licenses and found that in case after case, a driver would have a visa that expired in 6 months, but a license that was good for 5 years. This means you had thousands of drivers operating 80,000-pound rigs across state lines who were no longer legally allowed to be in the country. The DOT is calling these dangerous foreign drivers, not because of their nationality, but because they are unvetted and operating outside the federal safety net. In one instance, the audit found the driver who had been given hazardous material endorsements despite having no legal presence verification on file. Think about that. Someone who isn't legally in this country, driving a tanker full of fuel or chemicals with a license issued by the state of California, that is what Sean Duffy is calling a charade. We cannot ignore the politics here. This is 2026. We are seeing a direct, high stakes battle between a Trump appointed DOT secretary and the most prominent Democratic governor in the country. Secretary Duffy's press release was a tactical strike. He explicitly stated that Newsom was putting the needs of illegal immigrants over the safety of the American people. That is not typical DOT bureaucratic language. That is a political war cry. California's defense is that they are caught in a legal catch-22. The state is being sued by groups like the Sikh Coalition and the Asian Law Caucus. These groups argue that revoking these 17,000 licenses violates the driver's civil rights. They say many of these drivers are hardworking immigrants who are essential to the supply chain. Newsom is trying to walk a tightrope. He wants to keep the federal funding, but he also wants to maintain California's sanctuary status. But the DOT is making that impossible. FMCSA Administrator Derek Barr said, "We will not accept a plan that knowingly leaves thousands of non-compliant drivers behind the wheel." Essentially, the feds have put a bounty on these licenses. Every day California refuses to cancel them, the state loses money. This put Newsom in a corner. Does he support the driver and lose the road funding, or does he cancel the license and face the wrath of his own state's legal activists? To really understand why this is happening, we have to look at what the people actually behind the wheel are saying. And for that, we turn to the Owner Operator Independent Drivers Association, or the OOIDA. The OOIDA president, Todd Spencer, didn't mince words. He came out in full support of the DOT's crackdown. He said the days of exploiting cheap labor on the basis of false driver shortage claims are over. Think about that for a second. For years, the big carriers have cried that they can't find enough drivers. OOIDA's perspective is that there was never a shortage of drivers, only a shortage of drivers willing to work for poverty wages. They agree that loopholes in the non-domicile CDL program allow carriers to flood the market with unqualified cheap labor. According to Spencer, this didn't just hurt the safety of our highways, it hurt the bank accounts of every professional American trucker. When you flood the market with 17,000 drivers who don't have the same regulatory overhead or legal presence costs, you drive down the rates for everyone else. OOIDA's guest perspective is clear. By enforcing these rules, the DOT isn't just protecting the public, they are protecting the livelihood of the professional owner operator. They want a thorough review of a 10-year driving history for every applicant, not just a quick rubber stamp at a DMV that isn't checking the dates on a visa. If OOIDA is right, this $160 million penalty is the first step in finally fixing the race to the bottom that has plagued truckers' wages for a decade. Now, let's talk about what this means for you. If 17,000 drivers disappear tomorrow, what happens to the freight? 17,000. That is roughly 10% of the active CDL holders in the California spot market. Most of these drivers are working the short haul, moving containers from the Port of Los Angeles and Long Beach to warehouses in the Inland Empire. If they are sidelined, the ports will back up. Wait times for containers will skyrocket. And when capacity tightens, the price of hauling that freight goes up. This is a double-edged sword. While your per mile rate might go up, if you're a legal driver, the cost of living is going to follow. Everything from produce to electronics that comes through those ports is going to get more expensive. We are looking at a capacity crunch that could rival the 2021 supply chain crisis. The difference is this time the crisis is being manufactured by a federal enforcement action. If you think this is just a California problem, you're wrong. The DOT has made it clear that California was just the first stop. They have already sent final determination letters to other states. They're looking at North Carolina, they're looking at New York, any state that has relaxed its CDL requirements to accommodate non-citizens is now in the crosshairs. The Trump administration is treating this as a border enforcement issue just as much as a highway safety issue. Make sure your legal presence documents are updated at your DMV. Don't wait for a letter to show up in your mailbox saying your CDL has been revoked. By then, it's too late. And for the fleet owners, listen up. If you have drivers on your roster who were licensed in California during the collapse, you are at massive risk for nuclear verdicts. If one of those 17,000 drivers get into an accident and it comes out that they had a non-compliant license that should have been revoked, your insurance company will abandon you. The lawyers will take everything you own. You need to be auditing your drivers now. The feds just proved that the DMV doesn't even know who is legal. This is the biggest story in trucking history for 2026 so far. $160 million is a massive warning shot. Sean Duffy is demonstrating that the federal government will use the power of the purse to force state compliance. Now, once again, if you found this deep dive helpful, please smash that like button. Share this video on Facebook and X and in your trucking groups. The more drivers that know about this, the better we can prepare for the capacity crunch. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. And if you want to read the full report from Sean Duffy yourself, once again, I linked the FreightWaves article in the description box. And also, if you're ready to take control of your own future and start a box truck business that is fully compliant and highly profitable, go and watch my free box truck course right now. It is linked in the description box below. And also check out the video appearing on the bottom of the screen right now. On this video, I talk about how to scale from 1 truck to 5 trucks without losing money, burning out, or overextending your business. And let me know in the comments section, do you support the DOT snatching California's funding? Once again, I'm Marcellus with Trucking with MBR. Stay safe out there on the road, and I'll see you on the next video.